And now that the latest polls show Ron Paul has a good chance of winning Iowa, his Republican rivals are spending more time pointing out Paul's record, especially when it comes to national security and foreign policy. Jack Hunter is an advisor to the Paul campaign and a conservative commentator. He writes a column for the Charleston City paper in South Carolina. Jack, good to see you.
Good to be with you.
Well, of course, you know, when you're on top, all people are gunning for you. And one of the things that Congressman Paul's critics are claiming that he has really weak foreign policy issues and a very almost dangerous take on how to handle those situations. Wendell Goler just reported, as you know, there is a tenuous situation happening right now with Iran where Ahmadinejad is basically threatening to strangle the Strait of Hormuz, basically blocking the passageway to 20% of the world's oil supplies. If he's saying, look, Washington, you put more sanctions on our oil production, or our oil exports, I should say, and this is what's going to happen. So I ask you, if Congressman Paul were president today, how would he handle that?
Well, if Congressman Paul were President Paul, we'd have the strongest national defense in the world. A nation like Iran would be no threat to the United States because we would remain the world's most powerful military superpower in the world. Now, a lot of people, as you point out, are sort of asking questions about...
Excuse me, how would you remain the most powerful military force in the world when I know that Congressman Paul, one of the things that he says that you need to rein in military spending?
Well, that's exactly right. What Congressman Paul points out is that we need to cut spending in this country to turn around the economy. The difference between Paul and the other Republican presidential candidates, he does, as you just noted, addresses Pentagon spending. His budget, his plan, the first year, which cuts $1 trillion, excuse me one second,
Hunter,
cuts $1 trillion, does address Pentagon spending.
A lot. We've heard that, and that's not what I asked you specifically. I wanted to ask you about this story that's in the news today, and you're here as a surrogate for the congressman, and I wanted to know specifically, seeing that his critics are claiming that he's weak and perhaps dangerous on foreign policy. I want to know how you would handle this tenuous situation that's taking place right now.
Well, any potential threat that Iran would actually pose to the United States or our interests in that region would be met. The question we're asking, you're not framing the question correctly, are our interests at risk? And that's the question we don't ask often enough. That's what we didn't ask going into the Iraq war. And that's where people are starting to overreact now. That's been Paul's point the whole time, that we might overreact.
The question right now is not, are our interests at risk? The question is, as you know, Ahmadinejad is right now showing and flexing his muscle as he always does. And Congressman Paul is on record saying that so what if Iran has nukes? This guy is dangerous. And that is part of what his critics are saying, that he needs to be more, have a better, more realistic attitude and approach to handling Iran.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is that the way you're framing the question, and some of the other Republican candidates and even this president, to what degree is Iran dangerous? To what degree is Ahmadinejad a danger to the United States? These are the questions we do not ask often enough.
Well, is he a danger
during the Cold War, Ronald Reagan faced down a military superpower in the Soviet Union with thousands of nuclear weapons pointed at us in our backyard in Cuba. Does Iran equal that sort of threat? No, not at all. That's what President Paul, that's how he would handle it. That's what Congressman Paul is saying. We need to measure these things and have a sober, realistic, more prudent foreign policy that we've had in the past, not only because it's better for America's national security, but we can't afford to keep doing what we're doing.
Okay,
with Paul's budget, we would still have the largest military in the world, four times larger than China, and a larger budget than when Bush had in 2005.
Excuse me. All the points that you're making, apparently they're resonating there in Iowa, but they're resonating with the young voters, the independent voters, and the Democratic voters. So I ask you, how do you maintain the momentum that you have there going in Iowa? And perhaps because Congressman Paul is a different candidate who doesn't think like the typical Republican he doesn't maintain the specific or traditional Republican position. How does he maintain the momentum beyond Iowa? And perhaps because he is different, maybe this works in his favor. I don't know. You tell me.
That's where you really hit upon something. Ron Paul's been saying the same thing for decades. Why are we doing so well in Iowa? Why are we doing so well in New Hampshire? Because we've been doing the same thing. The same candidate, Ron Paul, that so many said couldn't get above 10%, is now well above that and a front runner. And that's true across the board. What's going to be our game plan? To keep doing what we've always been doing. Honesty sells. The Republican grassroots, the voters out there, recognize integrity, somebody who has a record to back it up. You know, watching guys like Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney argue over who's the bigger conservative or better conservative is sort of like watching the two guys in Milli Vanilli argue over who's a better singer. It does not hold water. And when they see Ron Paul, they see consistent conservatism.
I do have to leave it there on the Milli Vanilli note. Jack Hunter, thank you very much for sticking in with the discussion. Thank you very much.
Good to be with you. Thank you.